everybody. Welcome to the Game Junkie Show. I'm your host, Crystal, and I'm joined today by Grandpa Gurney, Twitter's favorite bitter gamer. I'm just teasing. We love you, Gurney. Welcome, Gurney.
Hello. Hi. Good to be here.
And I'm joined once again by Logic. What up, my man?
Hey, how's everybody doing?
Hanging in there, bro. Hanging in there, bro. It's very late for me on a Friday night, but we're going to fucking crush this. And then I'm not going to.
3 a.m. here.
All I'm going to want to do is game.
I'm just kidding.
So, tonight we are going to talk about the casual side of gaming. Because I think if we look at gaming Twitter as a whole, we could probably say that we represent a pretty small group of gaming consumers who might be really niche, would you say? Probably, somewhat, right? So we kind of today I figured we would talk a little bit about, what does casual mean and what implications could that have on, the market and the development. And as Logic had brought up before, what is it like to be the gamer in the corner of the party where not everything appeals to you as it appeals to everybody else? So before I go to Twitter and read some live tweets, Gurney, if someone says the word to you, casual gamer, what is your perception of what do you think when you hear that?
So to me, when somebody says casual, I think it means somebody who doesn't put a lot of thought into what they play. It just means that they will eat what's on their plate if it's put on their plate. They won't, it's kind of like a casual eater for, per se, who will go out to any restaurant that you take them to. They won't really have a preference. They'll just go to the restaurant and they'll eat at the restaurant, and that's it. They eat the food and they move on. They don't really critique things too much. They don't, they might not veer off the path too much. So to me, casual is more of just you eat what's on the plate and that's it.
Got it. I think that's a great opinion. Logic, what do you think when you hear the term casual gamer?
Well, I'm going to go ahead and start flipping tables right away. Because I think maybe a few years ago, there was a brief period where casual versus hardcore was something that I was trying to pull apart. But I think even before and then during and then even after that whole terminology battle went around on the internet, to me it's always been more about who is a knowledgeable gamer or not. And there have been times that I've used those kind of labels kind of concurrently because people briefly understood casual versus hardcore, more so. So to me, if it's a casual gamer and I equate that to a not as knowledgeable gamer, right? To me, it's always been about, and I hate to say it, but labeling or putting people in buckets that help me understand who I can have conversations with, right? Because there are and we're gonna wind up getting arrogant and egotistical tonight, but there are just gamers that I can't have a conversation with, right? Because they just kind of don't know enough, and I hate to say that, but so a person who plays, and I have respect for them, but a person who plays a crap ton of shooters, right, or one shooter, and understands that inside and out, right? A Call of Duty person, an Apex person, you kind of think of your big streamers, right? Those people know a thing, but you go into their streams and you bring up a game that's coming out and they know nothing about it. And outside of the one game that they play, they don't know the developer, they don't know the publisher, they don't know things that are happening in the industry. And then that cascades to the people in their stream, right, who are equally uninformed. Now, that all being said, again, arrogant and egotistical, there's a lot of things that I pay attention to in the gaming industry that a lot of people don't. And so that really gets down to a very small number, right? Because I sometimes struggle having conversations with people who are yah-yah-yahing about, about crunch and game delays, but like have never written a line of code in their life and don't understand how big corporations expense capital investments on software development, and whether that's a a capital charge that has to be amortized over a period of time and looks different on their expense and balance sheet for the SEC versus whether or not they do handle it a different way. So there's a lot of deep holes that I get into, but I can have that conversation with people who are willing to learn or willing to listen, but I can't have that conversation with people who are also a uninformed, but then also B, super ignorant and don't want to listen because they think that they already know everything. So there's a certain point in this conversation where it gets to like, I don't care how many hours like a week a person plays or how deep they go in a genre or how deep they go in their franchise. We could talk about a few things about some statistics where like the vast majority of gamers play genre. And then the second most thing that they play is franchise, right? There's very few kind of across the board gamers who play multiple platforms, multiple genres, and aren't lock wired into a franchise. Like they'll play the franchise if it's good, but if the franchise is bad, if the franchise has a bad installment, then they'll lift off of it, right? So that's kind of to me what casual kind of means, is the people who don't really know a lot.
That's a very long way of saying knowledge, but I totally get you there. And that you bring up something that I wanted to pull up because Methodical had posted this piece, and this is kind of what started the whole idea to do this show, is that the most played games on PlayStation 5 for 2021, okay, were Fortnite, Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, FIFA 21, NBA 2K21, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Destiny 2, MLB The Show 21, Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales, Demon Souls, and NBA 2K22. So a lot of these things on the list are pretty genre specific, and would you say pretty much kind of mainstream, more popular games, recurring games, franchise games, yearly games? Yeah. When I think, I'm not really used to the term to me, I mean, casual means relaxed. I like my jeans to be relaxed fit. So I just assume that like a casual gamer is somebody that is very relaxed, who goes, I'm going to play a game when I want to. And they probably play very popular AAA titles because it's what gets advertised to them, because they don't live and breathe in a video game world like we do on Twitter. They don't get nearly as much interaction with other people and with developers, and they don't see as much indies. So that's how I would interpret it. But I like to use the word average. So I think the average gamer plays these games a lot and dictates where the market goes, because the average consumer is where the money is. So would you agree that a casual gamer may not necessarily be that average consumer? Because it depends on what a person's perception of casual is, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, I don't play a lot of these games and I might be casual. So with that, maybe I'll read what some live tweets say about casual, and you guys can chime in on what you think of those opinions and definitions there. Let's see. The Mad Man. Let's see. His definition of casual gamer is somebody who may not do a lot of deep dives into lore or backstory or characters. They probably don't want to keep up with a lot of the news. They really just likely play the latest and greatest AAA titles and just kind of get their enjoyment out of that. I think that's kind of similar to what I said, maybe, sort of. Sound like it?
Yeah, kind of. I think like that's the other thing too, is there's so many angles, which I think, again, this is why there are just so many arguments on Twitter, is because we all have our own definition of what we think this term means. Because like, I think you could have two people play the same exact game and they'll each walk away with different experiences. Like a casual person could just sit down and I'm speaking just from what I believe is casual, which is very surface level interaction. And it's the same thing with the way you watch a movie, right? I think movies for me is a good illustration of of a casual versus like a cinephile. And I think too, we also sometime in this podcast need to define what people mean when they say hardcore, because the counterbalance. I don't think being a hardcore gamer has anything to do with how much you play either. I think it's about a certain intensity. So again, with movies, you can sit down and you can consume a movie and you can just pay attention to how that thing makes you feel, just by the story. And that's all you watch when you're watching a Marvel film, right? Like, and you're like, oh, that was a good movie. And like when you say that was a good movie, you're like, I liked the story. But there's somebody else who could watch the same movie and they could be like paying attention to the camera angles. They could be paying attention to the sets and where it's being filmed. They could be paying attention to the costumes. They could be paying attention to how much CGI is used, how much practical effects are used. They could be paying attention to the music and how things are edited, how scenes are put together. So there's ways of approaching things. And I think for me personally, that is the distinction of where there is this battle between casual and hardcore. So, as Madman was saying about like people who will play Skyrim, for instance, you can play Skyrim, but then you can go and read about the Daedra, and you can read about all the gods in the game. You can read all the textbooks that you pick up, and it starts to form a connection and a cohesion with that world. So you engage with that game on a far deeper level. Like, whereas the casual might just, all they want to do is grind and level up their character. They don't want to interact with the world in the same way. They're not reading with this, like the different species of flowers and getting into the alchemy side of Skyrim. So it's like, I think it's all about how we approach it. And I think Madman, that's a great point. I think, what he says is,
I peeked and looked at some of these, so now I'm going to read a handful because I think there's quite a few in here that I think both you and Logic are going to really have a lot to say about. That's really going to resonate with you guys. So our boy Megamat, casuals don't follow the news or what's coming out and don't really play anything outside of the most popular AAA games, which is not an attack on casual folks at all. My buddy Dave, Hour a Day Gamer. To me, a casual gamer is somebody who plays strictly for fun. Win or lose, they just have fun and play for the joy of playing. They may not play every day, just occasionally. Who knows? Maybe an hour a day. A little pun. Chad, you know Chad, right, Gurney? Smith Royal fan? You know Chad.
Yeah,
Chad.
Absolutely.
Chad said he considers himself a casual because he's somebody who plays games, even sometimes a lot, but they don't define who he is. So periodically he may go a significant time without playing anything. It may just be a hobby, nothing more, nothing less. Could be a wide variety or just one. This is a really good one from Joey, our boy Joey. Hardcore versus casual to me has always been separated by one thing: how much you care.
Yes.
And it isn't a bad separation. One is not superior to the other. Casuals play because they find games a fun pastime. Hardcores play because they adore games in a special way. And then he went on to say, to separate it from things like time spent, I love games. I love them a lot. I want to be considered hardcore, but not due to my skill or playtime, but because of the fucks I give, how much I love it. But when you have a family, you can only play so much. So maybe not judging it based on time. Pillow Fort said another, I really like this one. Casual to me is absolutely still a gamer. First of all, to be clear, I think a casual gamer, somebody who wants enjoyment before they want anything else from a game, and that's okay. It's a game and it should be fun. They may not want a world to explore. They may not want to read lore or anything like that, and that's fine. I'd call Tetris a casual game, and Tetris is fucking awesome. So we'll come back to some more of these in a bit and just see, did any of those things kind of resonate with you guys and give us anything that we can kind of build off of there, you think?
Logic, you take this one.
I think the one Matt said probably is closest to the things I am concerned about, because he talked about, keeping up with the news. You know, I appreciate anybody who spends any amount of time with a game and knows anything about a game, but if they don't understand how that relates and compares to other, and don't take that the wrong way, because I have a lot of angst about making comparisons today on Twitter. Some people wildly extrapolating some conclusions based off of comparisons that just shouldn't be made, because you compare an apple to an orange, what you get out of that comparison, I don't know of what value that is.
These headphones are almost as good as Breath of the Wild. So,
right. Let me look at this screenshot of this game that's out now versus this screenshot of this game that's still in pre-production pipeline and we don't even have a release date for yet, and draw some conclusion out of that. But yeah, so what Matt said makes the most thing to me. I think some of the other ones, I mean, and like Pillow said, and I love Pillow. He and I go back and forth a lot. I absolutely respect his opinion. I don't know that I necessarily equate, and I guess maybe to a certain extent, Gertie, what Gertie expressed to you, I don't know that I necessarily equate the depth to which you dig into the lore, because again, and part of my problem with this is I will admit I internalize it and personalize it and probably come out of it sometimes feeling attacked, and I'm like, don't put me underneath that label or paint me with that stripe. But like,
we all do.
If I'm
a normal human trait.
Right. But this week we saw the Hellstorm that was the discussion of the Game of the Year, right, things. and a lot of the themes behind that was like, well, we should let gamers vote. And I'm like, if we're going to use Metacritic as a yardstick, since that was done frequently, I'm fine with it. So let's go with that, right? I would argue that the number of games that are in the pool for that discussion is over 240, because there's over 240 games on Metacritic that were released this year that are an 80 or above. And I'm like, I spend a good chunk of money each year on software, right, on games. With as much money as I spend trying to play at least roughly 24 new games a year.
Wow.
That's 10%, right? So how are you going to tell me that a democratized pool of public opinion of people voting for games is better than journalists when the vast majority of those gamers don't even touch 10% of what's on offer of the market, right? So I struggle a little bit with. So if a person's trying to cover that breadth of games, right, and get exposed to a lot of what's on the market, it's hard. I know it's hard for me to dive deep, right? We jokingly have this running theme on E2KG about Destiny 2, right? And I talk about there are Destiny 2 players that play the game and extract the fun out of it and the desire that they want to. And I'm saying this with love. Then there are the crazy ass Destiny 2 players that are like deep into the bowels of lore about like all the conspiracy theories and like unpacking things. And I mean, there are instances where people have actually found physical clues that were left out in the real world. Like that's not me. That's not my relationship with Destiny 2. But I don't put myself in the casual bucket, because again, the reason I don't dig to that depth is because I'm trying to get to 23 other games, right, that year, so that I can be knowledgeable in the discussion when the Game of the Year discussion comes around, right? So, it's a juggle that you got to make, I think.
Well, too, I think you need to say that there are people who read books and they comprehend them, and then there are scholars who only study those books. Like there are also levels to. There's like casual and hardcore is also like a spectrum too. It's like where like Logic, you're a hardcore gamer, so don't ever feel like you're not. Like so if you don't understand the Destiny lore, that doesn't mean you're not a hardcore gamer, but each game there are levels to like where you could be a casual Destiny player, and then there are hardcore Destiny enthusiasts who literally could create college courses on how much they can. I mean, like My Name is Bife and stuff on YouTube with his intellectual British voice and his deep vocabulary and deep understanding of the game. Like that's hardcore, but like you can't expect to be able to know that much about every game you play, but I would certainly say I mean, that understanding certainly isn't casual in the same sense. So I would say that that's an aspect, but not the whole thing. Where
No, that's absolutely the most brilliant bifurcation of this topic that I've heard in years, and for the first time ever, which is the notion that there are applicable labels of casual and hardcore on a per title basis, or maybe even a per genre basis, right? Versus a a hobby or topical basis, and you can be in the notion that you can be a hardcore gamer, but maybe have a casual relationship with a particular title or genre. Like I often take people to task for not playing flight sims and driving and racing games, right? So, but there are people I know that they do play those. They toe dip into them, right? And they can't go off at a very detailed level about the dynamics of those genres and the minute differences, right? But they do have that experience. So yeah, I've never really thought of it that way, and that's an excellent notion you just made.
Some of those conversations kind of came up earlier on Twitter, and to me, the term casual gamer is so generic because it's a very simple word that you can interpret any way that you want. So I don't think it necessarily means exactly one thing. And if it does, it's not translated across the board. So I don't know. If somebody thinks I'm casual, I'm fucking casual. If they think I'm hardcore, I'm hardcore. I don't give a shit. I just like what I like and I'm going to do my thing. But I am whatever you say I am. Oh, I just quoted Eminem. But I look at it as more, I look at things on a baseline, right? A median of average. I'm not an average gamer. And I say that because my passion for it is way fucking higher than average.
You beat Ninja Gaiden, man.
I was 8. My reflexes were different and my patience level was way better. But yes, I was pretty fucking hardcore back in the day, y'all.
But I want to pick at that. I want to pick at that a little bit too, because the other thing that we haven't talked about is I feel like there's something above, wherever you're going to put it, and maybe it's a separate. I feel like this is like a 4-point star model, right? Where it's not just people on Twitter often talk about casual versus hardcore, but we've talked about here it's casual, hardcore across the board gamer. It's casual, hardcore, with regards to particular titles or genres. In my mind, there's also a slightly problematic dynamic in this notion of a fanatic, and you can do this on a per title basis, you can do this on a genre basis, you can do this on a platform, a brand basis, and you can do it on gaming basis. And that's where I love people that are passionate. There's a point where the passion becomes fanaticism, and it goes bad, right? And a lot of times you will have these cases where a person has put 1,000 hours on Destiny 2 or Call of Duty or one of these other things, and then becomes very toxic about the way they complain about it. And I'm like, look, dude, maybe you should go play something else for a little while, right? Like, I mean, I get it. You're passionate about it. You care about it, right? And that's great, right? That's what in a developer's, right? There's a point where through that threshold, that's at a developer's, that's exactly what they want, right? Is the person who's super engaged and super interested and super appreciates all the incremental changes that they make, right? But then there's a point where you hit the tip over point, right? And you become weaponized. And like, that's probably not what that developer wants, which is somebody who's constantly in their face at the very minute, detailed level about a very slight change that doesn't really make a big difference in the game, but yet they're flipping out about it. But then I'm like, but you put 1,000 hours into it. So obviously it's not like you dislike the game, right? So what gives?
Right. No, that's interesting. That's all. It's man, it's crazy. But I'm liking all the different perception. And I was nervous at first to ask this question because I'm like, oh fuck, we're gonna get into like that toxic difficulty discussion, and we're gonna get into like a lot of jabs, and we didn't. So I'm so happy with the Twitter family. To read a couple more tweets. Why can't I say Twitter? Read some more tweets. Chris says, I'm late to the game, but I feel like a casual gamer is typically a social gamer, one who may play here and there with friends online or on the couch, which is kind of awesome. I wish I had more friends to play on the couch with. Our boy Hunter Pearson said, casual gamer refers to someone who treats gaming like a hobby and not a major chunk of their personal identity. They play and enjoy games, but if they find something they're enjoying more, they'll do that instead. I'm a casual golfer. I don't even know what my handicap is. I thought that was actually a pretty awesome statement. My boy Hap says, probably a casual, dips into a game to pass the time, but isn't a super active follower of the gaming news or the industry that surrounds it. Maybe they play games just to pass times, like a mobile game on lunch break, or just kind of when they're bored. Maybe they don't play them all the time. What do you guys think about the golfing term that because I can't see your faces when I read these, so I don't know which ones of these are like having that reaction because I have to minimize this to read things from Twitter, so I can't tell. But I liked what he said there in reference to it. It's almost like, oh, I might have a good analogy. I really love beer, and you could say that I might be a casual beer drinker because I really don't fucking care. If it's beer, I'm probably going to drink it. I'm not going to be super picky about it. I'm only going to turn away probably if it's Guinness or it's like way too skunky. I'm not the, but Gurney is not going to drink just any beer. Right?
Well, that's not that's not true. That's not true. Actually,
I thought maybe
and
you were
beer.
beer specific.
I think beer is another good place to start. And here's the thing. Let me establish something where I think so much of this tension comes from on the Twitter sphere. We need to stop caring what other people think, and we need to start caring more about what we think of ourselves. So, like, I think, like, if someone says you're a casual gamer, for one, who cares what other people think? Because here's the thing. We all start casually, whether we want to or not. The first time I sat down and I played Mario Bros. At my grandpa's, I was 2 years old. I was casual as fuck. I didn't even know how to kill a Goomba. So I was casual. But I didn't care that I was a casual. But here's the thing. I think what separates a casual from somebody who's hardcore also is that hunger to want to expand. And beer is a great topic here because I myself started when I was a beer drinker just to try to find the thing that tasted the least like beer. I just wanted to get drunk without tasting beer. So I was a very casual drinker in that sense. But then it was one of these things. I remember the first time I tried an IPA, and people shit on IPAs still. Like, I don't know how anybody could like this. But it's like, you can't approach an IPA the same way you approach a Bud Light or a Yuengling. It's a completely different type of beer. That's like thinking you're drinking Sprite and instead you're drinking Coca-Cola. Of course it's not going to taste the same because you're trying to filter it through the same way of processing that beer. So I went into territory where I tried a whole bunch of different beers, and of course I became a beer snob because I only wanted to try the top quality stuff. But then it got to this point where, you know, when I would canoe or you mow the lawn, you're like, well, IPA doesn't go so well with canoeing or mowing the lawn. So I will crack open a Bud Light to mow the lawn, or I'll crack open a Bud Light to go canoeing because it's easily consumable and it's enjoyable and it's not so heavy and it doesn't weigh me down and it doesn't give me a headache as much, and I can just enjoy the experience. So in that sense, you can kind of compare that to this whole casual and hardcore. You can be either one at different points, and
literally anything,
not just with anything. So I think what we have to do is stop shitting on hardcore people, and we have to stop shitting on casual people. I think the ones that are the real problem are the people who feel that they're superior. And a great example is when I went down to Florida to visit my father. You know, my father makes fun of me all the time because I like good beer, and all he'll drink is you know, Bud Light, right? So he'll never try anything else, and he takes pride in the fact that all he drinks is Bud Light. He thinks he's, you know, I'm so American because I only drink Budweiser. You know, and it's like, that's a bad attitude. And then the people who won't touch Budweiser, you know, because they're too good because they got their craft beer, like, that's a poor attitude. Each one of these things has their place in life. You know, I'm a father and I'm a husband. So my time right now, I'm a very casual gamer. I only have very little time to play video games at night. And sometimes small pockets of time to play on the weekend. But when I'm playing for those 2-hour pockets or 1.5-hour pockets of time, I am intensely doing it. So
I wouldn't consider you casual because of your thirst for challenge and knowledge and your love for very niche, rare things. That's not a very casual thing.
Here's the thing. So with my time, if I'm not playing a game, I'm researching the game. So with like a Souls game, right? Like I can sit down and I can play for a couple hours. And then when I'm not playing it, I'll go and I'll research the mechanics and I'll figure out how to get better at the game. So when I sit down and I play the game, I make very productive use of my time when I'm playing a game. I don't want walkthroughs that teach me how to beat them, but I want the tool set to approach the problem being educated to know how to do certain things, So like to me, that's what a hardcore gamer is somebody who wants to be better at a game. Like it doesn't matter if you're approaching it and you're just sitting down and having fun with the game, but if you want to be better at the game, I would say that makes you more than just a casual gamer. But if you're just sitting down and you get frustrated because you keep dying, well, ask yourself if you're doing anything different. Are you trying to approach a problem from a different angle? Are you accumulating any more knowledge? Because like there's nothing wrong with being a casual. If you're okay with being a casual, then that's fine. Be a casual gamer. Who cares what other people think? But if you yourself want to be a better gamer and you're beating yourself up for being a casual gamer, that's a conflict that's coming from within yourself. And the best way to move from a casual gamer up, if you want to, is to just be curious and be hungry.
Play Bloodborne.
Yeah, well, it's not even that. It's how you would play Bloodborne, because you could play Bloodborne, but if you don't approach the game with a certain curiosity to learn how to play it, then you're approaching something very casually, and that's fine. But you will not get the full breadth of experience out of your games if you don't have a curiosity towards them. That's the only reason I think people should maybe step out and grow if games are important to them.
And I think this translates to anything. I mean, if you want more in your own personal tastes, you could shift at any point in time from somebody who's casual, which literally just means relaxed, and there's nothing wrong with being. I fucking love to feel relaxed. Yeah. Or somebody who says, I'm not going to be complacent and I'm not going to accept this and I want more. I mean, real life is very much like that. Like, I mean, some people, I feel like this could translate anywhere at any time in life, in any hobby. And I'm an extremely casual artist. I love art, but I have no fucking skill. I'm not willing to go to classes or to learn it. I love watching other people's art, and I can color inside the lines of a coloring book. I love art, but I don't research artists, but I get enjoyment out of that. So
and that's good. That's great.
I think go ahead, Logic.
Well, and some of that, which you just brought up, Crystal, is just so I try and shove some of those things together. I want to introduce the thought or the concept of goal-based gaming, objective-based gaming, task-based gaming, right? And what I'm kind of talking about is where I agree with one of the modalities that Gurney brought up, but I'd expand that to others as well, right? Different people can have so maybe what I'm coming around to is the notion that the difference between casual and hardcore is whether or not you have a goal to achieve when you game, right? Or whether you're just passing the time.
Hell yeah.
Right. Which puts it kind of in that category of the same where I draw this distinction between, watching TV and playing games. I think I've mentioned before where I feel like games are interactive and watching TV is a matter of having a story transmitted to you. I think there are ways you can engage with it that exercise your intellect, right? But in general, right, at face value, that's the two different modalities you go into. And so what Gurney was kind of coaching me through is that maybe I have a different goal or an objective when I play a game. And I think that in the realm of casual and hardcore, that's okay. And different people will have different goals or objectives. One of my goals and objectives is I study the design, art, and the interactivity of games. But in order to do that effectively, I have to experience a wide variety of games. And so I don't have the time to dumpster dive and tunnel dump on a single title because I have to get around to so many. I think that's okay. And then the other thing that I would add to is, Crystal, the thing you just again very near and dear to my heart. Again, I'll pin this back to just kind of the minority experience in America, and actually back to my beginnings as a gamer as well. One of my things is that like I refuse to ascribe to or allow anyone to pin me down to be measured by a certain yardstick. I define the yardstick. You don't. I decide when I'm going to leave a company. A company doesn't decide when I'm going to leave. Right. Yeah. And that's because as a minority in this country, if I let other people define me, then I would still be a kid in a small town growing up in a poor school system, and then I would have achieved nothing. Right. So I can't let other people be the ones who establish the yardstick. Way back in the day, right? Like the yardstick used to be what high score you got in the arcade. I didn't feel that was an acceptable rubric. I didn't allow that to define me as a gamer. I took my gamer elsewhere into the home, and I started exploring different goals and different objectives. And, like Captain Kirk used to say, I changed the conditions of the test, which is another philosophy of life that I thoroughly believe with, right? Look, if you give me a test that I don't think is of value, right, or is it the right test, I'm going to change the conditions of the test. You guys have experienced this because you'll often ask me a question. I'll say, I'm not going to answer your question. Yeah. I'm going to answer the question that I think we should be talking about, right? So, yeah, I think in that spectrum there can be a difference between hardcore. I would say all three of us are hardcore, right? Because all three of us approach gaming with some type of objective, right, to extract a thing out of it, and then pinning it back to what Joey said, and we're all passionate about gaming, right? And the industry and types of entertainment we're providing.
One of the things I love about you is you always answer a question with another question. Like, have you ever noticed that every time you ask Logic a question, he finds a way to make it like so perfectly articulated, but then he asks you a question and you're like, oh fuck,
he changes the rules of the game.
Forget my question. What was the question? Logic just asked. Like, I fucking love that about you.
This is really an inception. The walls are going horizontal right now.
The seed has been planted. The seed has been planted. Let me read a few more folks here. I do like that Gary Likes Games did make sure to confirm that we weren't using casual trying to have any negative connotations to it. But he said it probably means somebody who plays games maybe infrequently, or gaming isn't a primary preferred source of entertainment. Nerd Crave said, seems like no one's defining the gamer by the games or platforms. So if you primarily play games on mobile, you may be a casual gamer. Same goes for Facebook gaming or zero combat games like farming, Sims, Animal Crossing, things of that nature. Justin's gaming. We love you, Justin. For him, it means that maybe what did he say? It just means maybe someone that games no matter what it is, but perhaps they aren't on top of everything. They're not on top of all the news. They're not in the know, but they enjoy what they like. And one more here. Julia says, technically, I might be a casual player. I'm someone who likes to play video games, but it's not my main obsessive hobby. I play at my leisure, and it's not every day unless it's something that I'm into or it's something that calls to her. Which, now, going through and reading, there's more to read, of course, but reading what we've read so far, I think a lot of things somewhat align with us, it sounds like, right? A lot of us seem to have somewhat similar opinions. So, can we all be a bit of both? Can we all be both casual and hardcore, and also multiple places in the middle? I mean, isn't that?
I'm gonna go with an envelope of the conversation that says no. Just if I go back to, if I double down on the thing that I said before, which is about, and again, kind of, I think Joey alluded to it and Gary has alluded to it, whether or not what you're playing makes a difference, right? Because if you don't have a goal or an objective or a thing you're trying to achieve when you approach any game, then what you're presented, going back to Gurney's analogy of like you just eat what's on your plate, right? It doesn't matter to you, right? Miles Morales. Something about Miles Morales, I would contend, a casual person who approaches it, that nothing will make a difference, right? Maybe nothing will make a difference between their approach to Miles Morales versus Spider-Man versus Valhalla, right? But a gamer that has goals and objectives, and I would dare say a discerning eye, right, will pick something apart that matters to them that makes each of those games different in how they hit, and will cause them to evaluate whether one of those appeals to them more or not, and whether or not they want to see more of that, right, on the market or not. Whereas, like and again, it's not any disrespect to it. Like the person who just mentioned, like, look, I just play a game, right, and I don't get coupled to it, and I play it, I pick it up, and I put it down, and I walk away, and I may come back to it like in 2 or 3 days, right. Whereas another person, kind of like Gurney said, like I don't dig deep into the lore, but when I play a game, I go off and read different reviews about it, or I hit the Wikipedia page and try and understand more about the developer and the pedigree and the history behind it and the people who were involved in it, right? There's a continuing relationship with the property, right? Whether you're sitting at your desk or away from your desk. And so there's a part of me that pushes your question that you just asked, Crystal, into the binary zone where I go, no, like under that definition, you either care about what you're engaging with at some fundamental detailed level or you don't.
Okay, so then you just made me realize that when it comes to gaming, I don't think I could be casual because of that. Do I have games that I can just pick up and play sometimes? Yes. Do I have other games that are like fucking everything when I'm playing them? Yes. Do I have like free to play mobile games that like sometimes I'll pick up? Absolutely. Every time I'm in video games is the only medium, the only content that makes me feel the way I feel when I'm in them. Even if it's just stupid fun and I'm there for just like, it's just stupid fun. There's so many artistic pieces of it that I'm always thinking of. There's a feeling it gives me nothing else gives me. So then I guess that would answer the question. I cannot be both, I guess, when it comes to games.
You're a hardcore gamer.
I just love them too.
You self-deprecate when you say you're casual. You're not a casual gamer.
Oh dude, I fucking love gaming.
I mean, you saw Death Stranding through to its finality. You finished one of the most boring games on the market, Crystal.
There is nothing boring.
You can't be casual if you did that. It's also one of those things too. I think a lot of people who think that they're hardcore, and this is where I think the thing needs to be flipped. There's a lot of people, I think, who do bring this toxicness to gaming, who think, that hardcore means that you have, tons of platinum trophies. It means that you're really good at games. I don't think that means that you're hardcore at all, because you can get platinum trophies without having a single, critical thought or any, like you could get a platinum trophy and not be able to regurgitate why you even like the game.
Can I ask you a really quick question before you finish? If their own perception is that these achievements make me hardcore and they're not toxic about it, that's totally okay, right?
They're hardcore because they have achievements?
But if they feel that way, then wouldn't they be right? Because it's just the way they feel. I mean,
sure, yeah. I mean, I think, yeah. Again, I think that I think the terminology is, I don't even think it. I don't know.
It's so broad, isn't it? Like
I just think we got to stop caring what people think. If you think you're hardcore, then you're hardcore. But stop shitting on people that don't have platinum trophies. And if you think you're casual, that's fine. But stop shitting on people who want to put more emphasis on their games. People who get obsessed with the Souls series and they're passionate about it are not losers because they spend their time doing that. You might spend your time going out and bar hopping and clubbing and just mindlessly consuming alcohol. What does that say about you? So it's like, we got to stop shitting on each other. Like if you're casual, that's fine. Just be a casual. You don't have to defend yourself to the hardcore people. That's fine. And to the hardcore people, your trophies don't make you more of a man. Like I do have platinum trophies, but I'm not like the reason I have the platinum trophies is because I enjoyed the games. I didn't get them because I had something to prove to the world. I don't care if people like me or not. I'm going to play the games I enjoy. And that's like it each one of us needs to recognize that that nobody else around you has the last word of who you are. You have the last word because it's what you believe about yourself that matters. And as I said, we all start as casuals. We all start as posers. But just because somebody is passionate about something and they know very little about it, that doesn't mean they're less than you.
Right.
In fact, I champion that. I champion the person who steps away from Call of Duty and Madden and plays a Soulsborne game, even if they suck at it, because they're stepping out of their comfort zone and they're going to be a casual player. But if they have a hunger to be better and to learn and to grow, like that's what matters, because sooner or later, the person who commits, whether they're casual or not, if they are willing to commit and disregard every lie that's said about them, they'll be the best because they're committed to that path and they're committed to that arc. So it doesn't matter what these labels are that people say. It matters what you believe about yourself.
And that's why I wanted to ask, and we'll keep going through the list before we end the show, but that's why it just kind of dawned on me. I want to ask people what this means, because perception individually is very different from one person's reality. So in my world, X may mean X, and to logic, it may not mean that. So when we communicate, we can't hold that against one another, that I mean this and he means this. If it's not coming from a negative place and you're not trying to tear people down, let someone have their opinion of themselves. Let someone have an opinion of games and how things work, is if they aren't attacking you and they're not coming at you. And Logic did say earlier, we're all human. Sometimes we're so passionate about it, we feel it a little bit, and maybe we feel like we have to learn when that's just us, being emotional, and when like somebody's really being a shit, because Twitter's full of fucking trolls. So,
oh yeah, for sure.
Respect what respect what people feel and how they feel and why. And if I wasn't open-minded, I never would have experienced the greatest narrative journey that gaming had to offer in Death Stranding. I was absolutely that person that said that looks fucking boring and it's a walking simulator. And in chapter 2, I'm like, this is ridiculous. Why am I doing this? I'm struggling for nothing. There's no fucking point. There was a fucking point. And I went in with that goal. I'm going to and it fucking changed me. That game rewired me as a gamer. And I hope Returnal does that when I start that bitch soon too. Like that, but like wanting, if you want more, go and get it and absorb what other people can offer you. If you don't, that's okay. If you just want to play Call of Duty every year and you like it, fucking like play it, do it. Enjoy your sims, your flight simulators, your driving simulator, like do whatever the fuck makes you happy in gaming.
Absolutely. But the people who want more from gaming. So here's where I do have an issue, is there are people who have been gaming for a very long time and they've experienced a lot of different things and they want more. And there are developers who want to give us more. And so I think that there's like this, there are some folks who do only care about just having fun, and that's fine. But when you say games are meant to be fun, yes, they are meant to be fun. But more than that, they're meant to be entertaining. But just like books are supposed to be fun. But books also inspire us. They change us. They pull us to grow. And like when you read a great work of fiction, it can make you think, and it can make you step outside the bounds of your own reality to see the world from a different perspective. So if there's people who want more from something, that doesn't mean they're bad. That doesn't mean they're negative. That doesn't mean that they're, sure, they can be critical, but also people need to realize being critical is not always a bad thing. It's because of criticisms that things get better.
It's how people are critical. We see some people on Twitter who are critical.
There's ways to approach being critical. There's certainly a toxicity behind it, and I would say a good example would be if you are learning a new hobby, for instance, of like guitar. You can say, I'm not good enough, I give up, or I'm just never going to be the best, or I'm never going to be able to do this. That's critical, but it's not conducive. And then there's critical of, okay, I'm not doing this the correct way, or I could be doing this better. And you're putting in the work and you get better. You become a better guitar player because of your self-criticism. It's constructive criticism versus just nitpicking.
But
and
it's
I think
like Ernie said, the goal is there. I feel like
there's a goal.
Not Ernie, Logic said, I feel like that's that's the dot that's in the middle of every circle.
Absolutely.
That overlaps and goes around is the goal. You had the goal to become a guitar player and sing to us like an angel on Twitter, and so you do. So that, yeah. Sorry,
yeah.
I just got
excited. No, it's absolutely
coming
true.
Together.
Because there are ways of criticizing that are non-conducive and they're not helpful, and then there are ways of criticizing where you want. The reason you're criticizing is because you know that there is beyond the veil, there is something better to be experienced. And I think that is why there are a lot of angry gamers, is because we have come through a time of gaming that was very impactful to us. We've seen when stories were told that moved us to our core. And then we've seen sometimes where gaming can fall into this rut, and it can be extremely, extorted. You're extorting gamers. You just want their money. You want their, with big data analytics, you're constantly seeing how people play games, and then you only make games based on how the majority of people are playing. And here's the thing. We are only as strong as the weakest link. So if the industry only caters to the lowest common denominator, which is the people who only eat what's on their plate, we will never be challenged enough to be more than what we are. And that's the thing. As human beings, we are constantly becoming more than what we are. It's in our nature to be more than what we are. Literally, the slogan for Miles Morales is "Be greater."
Is it for every human?
I think it is. because
if you look at what gaming is catering to, gaming industry is a business, and they're catering to the average person, and the average person is consuming this content.
It's true, but look, take drugs for instance. All right, you got people who just smoke marijuana to escape their problems. Then you have some people who will smoke marijuana or eat mushrooms to reach higher states of consciousness and grow. You know what I mean? So it's like, I'm rambling, obviously, but I hope you at least see where I'm coming from.
No, I totally see where you're coming. You're that gamer that's in the corner of the Logic plays everything. First of all, Logic plays everything. I would say that Logic and I both play a lot of stuff, but Logic is, I think, not better than me, but more diverse than me, that he plays more games than I do, and he plays more types of genres consistently than I do. And I know for me, I'm just a happy person. I can eat what's on my plate, but there are times when I want more, and I need it and I crave it, and there are certain things I really want. I can have fun doing something if it doesn't meet my EROI, but I want the EROI. Okay, I want it. Gurney is that gamer in the corner that's like, man, I'm craving substance that's not delivered that often. I can't get what I want on my plate at a lot of restaurants. And that's frustrating because the average consumer, I don't watch TV anymore because it's all fucking reality stuff. And that's just what the average person watches. And I get it. I do get it. Because I'm like, man, things aren't clicking with me in this content anymore. Maybe it's me. I don't know. Maybe they're driving the content for somebody. It ain't me. So I think Twitter represents that niche group of gamers that we've all kind of gone like, can we get more games like Death Stranding and Returnal and more games that take risks like Last of Us 2? Or like, will all this backlash, or will the not as big of sales, or will the award snubs stop that from happening? So we do have those fears that may not be entirely rational. And Logic, I want to get your take on this, because you are, I think, you see things differently, right? That's your analytical side as an engineer, but you consume so much of the niche space and kind of that mainstream space. So I mean, I don't, do you ever feel like that gamer in the corner of the room that doesn't get what you want?
Well, to a certain extent, but for different reasons. Like, just gamer in general, not necessarily from a consumption standpoint. I do definitely feel like that gamer in the corner, because I spend a lot of my time playing things that I feel like I'm obligated to play, not necessarily what I would choose to play. Like I constructed the EROI model so that I could measure my experiences, but I don't spend a ton of time in the center of that model, right? I spend a ton of time, quite frankly, talking to myself about why the hell am I doing this when it does not fall in the center of my model, right? Well, because I'm obligated to do it because of a thing that I do get enjoyment out of, which is stacking up these experiences and then being able to credibly and intelligently compare A to B, right? Not to just talk a bunch of BS and yin yang, right, on Twitter without actually coming from a knowledge space, right? You guys have heard me talk about the tech side of that same kind of experience where, on Twitter, I got people talking about iPhone versus Android, and then I find out the iPhone person hasn't touched an Android device since like the Motorola Droid, right? A person who talks about Mac and Windows, and then you talk to the person, you realize they haven't touched a Windows machine since like Windows 7. So you're not knowledgeable and you're not credible, and I just want you to shut up. So there are pieces of your guys' discussion that I agree with. I think the way I view it is that the demographic of the market is deliberately distributed, right? Is natively distributed, is organically distributed, right? I can't expect a 17 to 22-year-old, right, to have a refined enough taste to understand what it is that they need to seek. They have to grow through that, right? And then we gotta find the people to curate and cultivate such that they gain that desire, right? Because as Gurney said, otherwise, 20 years into gaming, they're just playing schlock. Now, that all being said, playing schlock is fine, right? To a certain extent, depending on what your objectives and your goals are out of it. The last year, I have spent a ton of time playing Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War.
Awesome.
I would contend that I've earned that right, right? And nobody can throw shade at me about it, because I spent tons of years gaming not playing that, and I did that to kind of see what the other side was getting out of it, right? And I kind of understand that, right? You stack up skill, you have a prolonged sense of persistent progression that is not the same as when you spend 40 hours in a game and it's a one and done, right? And you walk away from this character and you wipe your hands of it and you're done, right? So there are things that are revoked out of it, right? But kind of like you said, Crystal, right? The gamer who's the really hardcore and the gamer that's really beneficial, I think, to the market is the one who is constantly looking to expand their horizons and participate, right, in the industry and consume different elements of what the industry puts out, right? But you need the gurneys, you need the snobbish beer drinkers, right, to make sure that good, great beers keep getting made, right? But you also need the people who are consuming beers in bulk, right? Because if those people aren't making beers, you don't have the people who are making the 10% beers, right, that appeal to the particular taste. So maybe it's a little bit of like, it takes a village. And I understand that there are going to be people who are not in the same gated community that some of us are in, but we need those people too, right? It's kind of like things I talk about at work where I'm like, look, I love my top 20% performers, right? But I need my middle 50% performers because I got to have enough people to fill slots, right? A certain volume of stuff has to get done. And I got to take some inefficiencies along with that, right, to keep the boat moving downfield. So, but I value each of them, but in different ways. I think the last vestige of where I don't want to say disagree with you guys, but just view differently. Is I mentioned that thing on Twitter today where I talked about having lived through the video game market crash of 1983. Right?
I remember that.
I was a earning my own money to a certain extent at that point, consumer of the market, right? And for 2 years, like video games were just gone, right? You weren't buying new stuff, right? You were desperately seeking out places where like the things that had been made were being sold. And I had to find some different kind of things to do. And when the market came back, kind of really in 1986, right, it was a time of rejoice. So when I look at things via that lens, like 97% of the market just gone, right? When I look at things in that sense, I had my own period of time here in recent history where I was like all the battle royales that were being made. And I had this like growing fear that like that's all we were going to get, right? But I stepped back a little bit from that precipice and I realized, okay, we're not back in 1983, right? The London Bridge isn't falling down, right? The comet's not heading towards the planet Earth, right? It's not an extinction level event, right? There are some bads that come out of it, but I also think there are pieces of that I put on developers and that I put on gamers, right? I think there's been another train of conversation going on around Twitter about microtransactions and things like that. And I'm like, okay, but lots of developers and publishers give gamers choice. And so if you want to play Destiny 2, if you wanted to play it for the last 7 years, right, and you wanted to play the campaigns, right, you could do that. And those incremental campaigns that have been delivered have been the equivalent of another game, right? Maybe not a full-blown game, but some number of hours of gameplay. And so if your objective was to play 5 or 6, 4, 3, trying to get the number of expansion packs that come out on Destiny 2 each year correctly, if you want to play 3 expansion packs a year, you could pay for them the same way that you would pay for any other new release game. And you could play those campaigns and you would have the same volume of experience. And on top of that, you would get this persistent progression character that you related to and had memories and things that you were tightly coupled to, right? And that's, I don't think that that's a bad thing. Now, I agree, there's another spectrum of that where you're buying tons of suits of armor and playing microtransactions and like feeding the silver beast, right? and all that stuff. And maybe that's a bad end of the spectrum. But I put some of that on gamers, right? You don't have to do that. You can be an adult, right, and not consume all that stuff. But you can be, I don't know, a good citizen, right, of Destiny 2, right, and play the stuff that's presented for you. By the same token, I put a lot of this also on the developers, right? The developers, the developers made battle royales. I think the fact that battle royales exist is okay. Making a glut of the market of battle royales is not good, but I don't put that. Yeah, but I don't put that on the gamers. I didn't ask for 7, 8, 9, 10 different battle royales. The market is only going to sustain 2, right? The fact that businesses failed to recognize that and read the market and didn't prevent themselves from getting overjoyed. This is a problem with developers in the market. They tend to rush towards where all of the gamers are without thinking about whether or not those gamers are actually going to consume that content, right? And in battle royale space, the reality is that only the top 2 or 3 battle royales are really going to thrive because the gamers all want to be where the most people are. And so therefore, after that period of time, you really only have Fortnite, Apex, and Warzone. And there's not room for any more, right, I would contend, right? But that's a developer problem and a business problem. And so I don't lay that all necessarily on the gamers who liked that type of content. I think the ones who like that type of content are okay. They just didn't necessarily ask for what the industry delivered in volume.
I'm gonna read a couple more tweets, but businesses are gonna do. If you spend your money, man, that's going to be the deciding factor right there. I'm just going to say.
I just want to say one more thing.
Money is what makes these decisions.
I think too. It's like it's the whole concept too of like the story of the Garden of Eden and the tree in the middle. It's like everything, you can touch everything, but if you touch the tree, you fuck up. And it's like the tree is the microtransactions. It's like you got this great, beautiful game, but the moment you touch the tree, the developers got you and they manipulate your human desires, and that's where they get you.
Hey, but I do have to ask, how many of us I would touch the tree. I'm just going to tell
Yeah.
you right now, because you told me not to touch the tree. I cannot stop thinking about what's going to happen when I touch the fucking tree, and you guys would be fucked because I would touch the tree. I'm just going
Well, here's the thing. Like,
I
we
would touch
touch
the
the tree every day in our lives. I've been around games to know enough. If you touch the tree, you fuck it up for everybody, because when you touch the tree, now that's what they're gonna give you more of what you keep touching. So if you
Exactly.
keep spending the money, they're gonna keep designing these Skinner boxes of where they're designing it for you to touch the tree. And every time you touch the tree, the world gets smaller and there's another tree, and you keep touching the tree. But stop touching the tree and just play the game.
Okay,
Enjoy
well,
the game for what the
I
game
won't
is.
buy microtrans. I'm fine with that. Like, I have successfully boycotted Amazon, so I can control my money. But that fucking magical tree, I'm touching. I'm just letting you know right now. Like, it's a magical fucking tree, and I'm touching the tree. So let me read a few more of these here from Retron. Casual gamer is someone who plays the same handful of games just to scratch an itch. They may not venture out to try something new, or might play it on occasion if asked with friends that kind of look at gaming as a way to blow off steam. Let's see. Gaming, my gaming geek friend here says, I'd say casual gamer just simply means gamers that have no particular preference over the types of game they play, so they have fun with whatever they like. They eat what's on their plate, and there's nothing wrong with that. Amy says, I'd say a casual gamer, someone who enjoys games, but it's not their main hobby. Most likely ignore the discourse or news and just kind of dip in and out of games as the mood strikes. This one, hilarious username, by the way. This one made me think of Logic, because I did peek at some of these before we recorded. Assy Stardust is the name. I'm not making that up. The difference between casually enjoying any media and seriously enjoying media is the development of a critical eye and personal taste. That really, I was like, that's a Logic quote right there, to sit there and, like, we basically talked about this, how you break it down into all these bite-sized pieces. Because as hardcore gamers, we see all those elements of games. We see, like, all the art, the artistry in all these elements. We don't just see this is fun. We see all these little parts and pieces, and then we see the full cohesive. I mean, I'm not going to assume for you guys, but at least that's for me what it's like. Fair? I know you guys. You guys. Alex Wenzel, playing video games in my underwear is what it means to be a casual gamer. I just want to point out, I saw his tweet too, and right now I'm only wearing boxers. Just so you know, I'm I'm in solidarity there with you, brother. I did that just for you. Let's see. Death by Fuego, casual gamers play to pass time, may not think too much of it. He said, people like myself, I guess I might consider more hardcore because I'm really passionate about the gaming and the culture and the community, and it's not just a pastime for me. Mr. Singh said, a casual gamer is somebody who just enjoys the game. They don't worry about achievements, completions, challenges. They just find it fun and simple. So I'll read the rest later. But any of those things kind of like spark up any area of discussion or aha moments, or
They're all different. They're all different.
They're all different.
We all have different ideas of what casual means.
I know, and that's kind of what I was hoping to bring up, is that it's such a generic term. Don't let it define you if someone calls you that, because you see
Bingo.
clearly how many different things it means. It is or it isn't you. It doesn't really matter. I don't care if you think I'm casual and I might play shit on easy and I might not be Returnal, but I'm gonna try. So, like, whatever. I fucking love games and I love all the elements about it, and that's okay, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Just stop telling other people what to consume. You know, I think that's the thing. I think so much would go away if we just stop trying to say add an easy mode to Dark Souls. You know, just leave the Dark Souls alone. All right, it's not. You can dip your toes if you want, but just stop telling people to add easy modes. There's plenty of games that are easy, and stop telling people to play harder games or games on hard. Like, you don't have to play games on hard. It has nothing to do with that. We've just got to stop these two worlds from telling each other what to do. Just do what you fucking want, but just realize there's repercussions what you choose to spend your time on is what you're going to get more of.
And I
Vote with your
think
wallet.
too, we're all really passionate. Probably most of us on Twitter are a lot of us probably really are hardcore because we fucking love games and we absorb it, and our friends are gamers and we play a lot of games and we watch the stuff. We know about the games that are going to come out before any of our like real life friends who play games know. We have more knowledge, all that stuff there. God, where was I going with that? You said something, Gurney, that like made me get excited, and then I forgot the fucking thought I
Stop
had.
telling how.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. On the same token, don't feel bad for having the opinions you have. Like, it's okay. You're allowed to think the way you think, and you and another person can think differently and have a difference of opinion, but you can still love each other and love games. Just don't be crappy to other people. That's the ticket, man. Is just don't. Yeah. But I think because now I know where I was going with it, because we're so passionate about it, when something makes us really, really happy, we assume that's going to make someone else happy. So we think that person isn't getting the enjoyment we're getting. Right?
It's true.
So yeah. I might be pushy with, Logic, you got to do it this way. And Logic could be like, but I'm really happy doing it my way. I get just as much enjoyment as you do, even though we're playing it two really different ways. So that's just keep that. These are all things we have to keep in mind when we're communicating.
Well,
online.
Okay, like take sex for instance. Okay, all right. This is kind of an obscure place.
I mean, okay, so video games to sex. I mean, if we're going to talk about
check it out.
Video games,
just hear me out. All right, just hear me out. All right, you've got straight people who only want to fuck the same, different, people who are different than them. Then you've got people who want to fuck people that are just like them. Then you got bi people who want to fuck everybody. Okay, it's like sometimes we just need to be bi gamers. It's like play a little bit of everything, try everything. So like the people who
technically that's pan gamers, but I know what
yeah. Okay, see, I learn something new every day. It's like me trying to convince somebody who doesn't like boobs that boobs are fucking awesome. But like some people don't like boobs. It doesn't matter how much I love boobs. Some people don't like boobs. Like but we all understand that, right? There's some things that we're so passionate about. And we want people to experience things with the same intensity that we do, because we think they might see the light. We think that they might break through to the other side. So, but that can turn into toxicity when we don't feel heard, when people don't feel, or when we get made fun of even. Like, oh, you like Souls? You're a tryhard. You're a sweaty tryhard. Oh, you have the platinum trophy? Wow, go outside and touch some grass. It's like, man, fuck you. So
okay, but here's the real question. This is the real question of the night, folks. What's better, video games or boobs?
Logic. Well, I'm gonna go with B. I mean, I do A because that's all I can get. But if I had access to B all the time, I would go with B.
That is the best fucking answer. That is true. Video games are they're more easily accessible.
No crap. Video games will keep you out of trouble. You spend money on video games, but they're less expensive than certain other things.
I was going to say it's definitely less expensive, honestly.
Sometimes playing video games is a reason why I'm still alive. That's okay.
I'm having a hard time deciding. I love video games that much. I'm having a hard time deciding.
But you like boobs too, though.
I love.
So we have that in common, right?
I love breastises. Like, really love breastises.
The danger is sometimes they're attached to crazy, and sometimes in your youth, it takes you a long time to understand and recognize that. That's a problem you often don't have with video games.
That's true. Okay, so
take a percentage of your life, kids, and allocate it to video games for the sake of your longevity and your health.
I'm going to pick video games then, because Logic is making, once again, logical fucking sense. So I'm going to pick video games, but my PS5, she thick. So that works. She thick mama.
Really?
So that works. I'm going to pick video games over boobs. Someone save this receipt, because I have a feeling somewhere later down the road, this might come up and somebody might have to prove to me that I chose video games over breast assistance. Gurney,
Yeah,
boobs or games?
Uh,
See, it's hard.
I mean, there's boobs in video games, so video
That's
games,
true.
right? Why not
That is
both?
true.
right?
Yeah.
To pack on some of the things that Gurney said, right? I think a lot of these concepts of what's what and what's important to you and what your goals and objectives are, whether you don't want goals or objectives, right, are all acceptable. As you guys have said, right, the problem with them becomes when people want to weaponize them, right?
Yes.
I think it's fine to do what we did and pull apart, like, what is casual and what is hardcore and why does it matter, what difference does it make? But where, like, the defensiveness comes from, like on Twitter and stuff, is because so often people take the thing and run with it and weaponize it, right? People say casual's bad, hardcore good, right?
Mhm.
Souls players good, Call of Duty players bad, right? And the problem is like I said, again, going back to that crash of '83, right? You can't have a monoculture, right, consumer base because the industry won't survive that, right? And I continue to hold on hope, and I think there is hope that amidst the schlock, right, which I say the schlock has value, right? I feel like I perceive it as being a certain thing that has to exist, and it's okay for it to exist. Even amongst the schlock, we get an EA who recognizes the value of putting out something like Jedi Fallen Order, right? That should exist. We still get great single player games, and in fact, right, when we look at title sales, right, we find that despite all the hoopla about multiplayer and PvP, the things that really move dollars, right, are really single player narrative driven stories, right, particularly on certain platforms. So the industry knows that that's good, and will hopefully continue doing things like that, and recognize that also they have to skate to where the money is. I think the hope, at least that I hold on to, is that the industry understands that there's still a point in diversification and covering all the bases and the demographics of the gamer community, and we hope that will continue. And the people who rush to the spaces, right, and skate to the money, eventually they learn that that's got a certain max capacity, right? And sometimes there are negative effects, right? Sometimes people get laid off, sometimes studios get shut down, right? But there were people pumping out battle royales, right? 8, 9, 10. Like, there was an E3, I want to say it was maybe it was 2018. There was an E3, and particularly the PC game show of it, that, like, there were 8, 9, 10 different battle royales that came out, and, like, all of them flopped. And I mean, I'm sure those development houses learned their lesson, right, and are retooling and doing something different, right? Because the market's just not going to sustain
went
that.
out of business because of it.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't do their research. But let me ask you this, because, I mean, we and most people, most of our friends, our Twitter family, we've been playing games a long time. We've always been in it. But COVID caused an unexpected thing to happen where people got forced to stay home and picked up gaming as a hobby because they were bored. And now more and more people are going, oh, gaming is pretty fucking cool. And the industry has had a massive boom. So, Logic, do you think that will further support the idea of diversification? Because now, and I feel like some of the design elements are because we're introducing younger generations again and in a heavier amount. But do you think because of the recent growth of the industry, it will continue to diversify and we will continue to have the bigger markets and then the niche markets and the hard only game markets and the kind of games that appeal to a young? I mean, do you think that that's the dynamic that we're going to see moving forward?
I mean, in general, yes. I mean, I think it's going to continue to be cyclical, right? And we're going to have years where everybody's like, I remember as a kid, I think it was the year either Raiders of the Lost Ark or maybe it was Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, right? When those came out, right? the following TV season, there were like 3 or 4 like Indiana Jones like shows, right? There were like every major network, right, had one of these things. Tales of the Golden Monkey, Alan Quatermain, right, and then some other thing that was right, and you know, all of them, most of them lasted like 1 season and were never heard from again. Tales of the Golden Monkey, right, went on, and the Gold Monkey went on and had, you know, multiple seasons. But like, people learn their lessons. I think, you know, as that demographic exploded and it's a bigger market now, I think we'll continue to get the diversification because, you know, yes, Call of Duty went through the roof and made, you know, bang killer money, but great Scott, Nintendo Switch was the highest selling platform, right, over that time period, and stinking Animal Crossing, right, was one of the highest selling games, and we don't know all of the sales because Nintendo doesn't report digital sales. So it's very feasible that Animal Crossing outsold Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, right? We just don't know. So
absolutely could have.
Yeah,
it probably did. Actually.
So I'm holding on to that hope that we continue to see that. I think, and actually the thing I was going to kind of come into the podcast tonight, out of this discussion of casual versus hardcore and people who push the market to give us new stuff versus people who push the market to give us schlock, the demographic that concerns me the most are the people who don't want to put any money into the market, you know, and I hate to say it, you know, right, wrong, indifferent, right? It's a capitalist market. Like, there's got to be revenue, there's got to be profit in order to drive reinvestment and creation of new things. And I want to say it's I think it's IGN. I think, because I pulled this apart a few weeks ago, I think IGN is the one who partners with Nielsen Ratings to do a survey of like 3,000 gamers to capture some statistical data that may or may not be relatively indicative, right? And you know, they broke gamers down into kind of 6 categories, and one of those categories was the neutral gamer who doesn't like to spend any money on gaming and only cares about price. And so these are people who don't spend any money on games, don't, you know, only buy games maybe on sale. I don't know that that's that dangerous. The ones that I run into that concern me are the people who only play free-to-play games, because I think that's a dynamic that could be potentially harmful to the market. But on top of that, feels like they're entitled to new content based on how much time they spend playing in a game.
But those people spend a shit ton of money in microtransactions?
They don't, right? They don't.
You're talking about console? For console, you're talking?
Yeah, because most of them won't invest in and can't afford a PC.
Mobile is the opposite. Mobile gaming is billions and
right, generates tons of transactions, right? Because normally in many cases your payment system is also tied, right, to your device, right? So it's very easy to cross those two. Whereas on a console, lots of people have it tied to a payment system, but not all. But there's just a growing category of gamers who only plays free to play, and then when they play that game, only like you can dump tons of time into Fortnite and Call of Duty and earn enough in-game currency to just buy the next battle pass, and that's all they do.
So then, can I ask you? Do you think these transitions in console gaming is trying to replicate the success that the mobile market has had in
100%?
I mean, because
there's definitely that dynamic in the market.
I play this one game, and it's fun. It's like a little war game. I really just like the people that I play with. I spend time in it. I don't need to spend money on it. It's just a phone game to do here and there. I've literally met people on this game who claim, I don't know if they're telling the truth, but based on what I've seen things cost in the game, they've claimed to spend tens of thousands of dollars on one game to be bigger. I mean, that's your choice. It's your money. The amount of money people spend on free-to-play mobile gaming is insane. So that's why I was asking you, Logic. That's not proving to have the same level of success on console than it sounds like from what you've found out.
Well, I don't know that I don't know that it's not having the same level of success. I think it is finding a level of success. I just think it hasn't taken over the market, and I don't think it will. But that to me is the most dangerous element that I recognize, right? And I don't necessarily mind that the publishers and the developers are creating that content. It's more that I want to grab those gamers and shake them about the shoulders, right, and tell them, hey, you need to. The market exists on revenue. If you just play the free stuff, then that's all that there. Then that is all that there's ever going to be. But again, in a lot of cases, these are people who don't care because they're casuals, because they're not approaching it with an objective, right? Like we do, which is that we want a robust market that presents a lot of variety and a lot of different consumption styles, but they don't care, right?
Okay, so let me ask you this then. If it's a free game, I mean, obviously nothing's free. Everything costs something to produce. So that's just my thought. If you're playing a game that doesn't cost you to grab it and download it and start playing it, they have to make money off something. So I can understand some
not from that particular consumer. I think though, if you have a whole bunch of people that are playing it, you'll grab it, you'll pull the people in who will spend the money.
That's what I'm saying.
You have the whales at the top who are funding the game for everybody else.
Right. Because I mean, at some point, I mean, they have to make money to.
Because if there's one person, as you said, if you meet people that spend tens of thousands of dollars, they've just paid for everybody else to play that game.
I mean, it was pretty, because there's people like, I mean, I've played different mobile games throughout the years. I get more bored with mobile games, but I get curious on some of them. and I don't know if they're telling the truth, but there's games I used to play where people have claimed. One guy claimed that they had this alliance. They were the number one alliance in the whole world at this game. And it was a requirement to be a member of this alliance that you had to spend $50,000 on your character build a year. And that's an alliance of 30 people from all over the world who are the best players at this game that you touch a screen. I'm not saying that didn't require talent. I wasn't very good at it. But they spent that much money. So I look at mobile gaming and I'm like, it's so insane to me that people will spend that. And I definitely don't want to see. I don't want to see that from console. I mean, I don't think we're going to see that. But that's why I'm asking these questions, is because I'm trying to gauge.
Right, and that's it's that intermix, like Gurney said. I can't remember if it was you. I was joking with Gurney, or maybe it was somebody else. But I mean, I think it was you, Gurney, when we were talking about Halo Infinite, right? Yeah, the market dynamic is that the people who pay in essentially subsidize, right, the stuff for the other people. Now, there's part of that relationship that I'll say symbiotic, I won't say parasitic relationship that I think is okay, right? That business model is fine. It's when it approaches the edge of unreasonableness that it gets bad and creates that knock-on effect that Gurney said of like, that's all that people want to make. But then on top of that, as the shrew turns, right, the microtransaction model starts to become punitive, abusive, and exploitive, right, towards the people who are paying. And so their lives get progressively worse, right, in their relationship with the game, sometimes at such a creeping pace that they don't realize it or don't see it or don't understand it. But then this generation of people who never agrees to put money into the market, right, is benefiting from that. But it just creates a lot of bad things. Like, there are also the people that group can also be the people who are most vocal and most toxic about it, like the people who complain about Fortnite, right, who never pay for anything, but then complain about every single little change that they make. And I'm like, you need to understand that developer is not trying to satisfy you because you're not paying into the economy. They're trying to onboard new players, right, who will pay. So you reap what you sow by the things of your actions. Like, I have played mobile games before too. My relationship with mobile games has been, depending on what the pricing model is with it, right, I normally just want to pay something one time up front to kind of get over the hump and feel like I've done my part to support the developer, right? So if the developer puts out a free-to-play game that has like an initial like $10 get or something, I'm like, I don't mind paying that. Like, first of all, I would just rather than just sell me their game at a price, right, in a barter economy and be done with it. Right, but I don't mind paying them that $10 up front, right? Then I want to be done with it, and I just want to play the game for whatever it is. So I think, again, I think some of those models are okay. Are pay to like remove the advertisements, like the one time. I'm fine with that, right?
I purchased a few like 99-cent deals, dollar deals. Like, I like the game. I play it enough that I'm going to throw a couple bucks but that's a question that I wanted to ask. If somebody's playing a free to play game and they really, really, really enjoy it, I mean, they're gonna spend on microtransactions. I mean,
Some people don't. I have one of my best friends only plays like Fortnite and Splitgate, doesn't spend a dime.
but then my question is, because if the free to play games require revenue to keep that environment going, so how much of a burden is that? Or is it never going to be as problematic because the whales spend as much as they do?
Yeah, it's because of the whales. I mean, if you have somebody who spent, okay, a typical game is $60, $70 now for next gen. But if you have someone who's spending $300 even, I mean, look how much more they're paying than
Yeah.
just initially spending the $60. So they're carrying the load of multiple consumers. So the people who never want to spend a dime can play those free to play. But in my opinion, the repercussion is just things like GTA Online, right? Like the reason we haven't gotten another GTA isn't because GTA 6 is taking so long in development. It's because they're making so much money from the microtransactions. They don't need to make another game ever because when GTA originally was coming out, GTA 3, from the span of 2001 to 2004, you got 3 Grand Theft Auto games. Okay, we haven't had a new Grand Theft Auto game since 2013. We've just been getting GTA 5 because it pumps out the microtransactions and people are spending money. Grand Theft Auto isn't a game, it's a store. GTA Online is a store, and people are spending enough money to keep Rockstar Games in business.
You'll be happy to know I have played GTA 5 full campaign and like little shit afterwards, because you gotta pimp out all the vehicles and run around and pick up hookers as Franklin afterwards. 4 full times, maybe 5 full times, and have never ever played online, not once, not even tried it.
I've never spent a dime on microtransactions, and I've beat the campaign multiple times as well. But the problem is it doesn't matter how many times we beat it. If there's somebody who's out there who's spending $1 million, which you best believe it. Rich people are playing these games, and they have fucking money to blow for days. So that's, if you want to get down to the heart of where my bitterness comes from, guys, it's because if the rich people are catered to, or the largest market in general, and they're keeping the predatory things afloat, it doesn't fucking matter what everybody else thinks. What matters is the people who are paying the money, who are keeping the lights on. And that's why my personal sentiment is I like to pay for my games. Just like Logic says, Logic will pay that money to support the developers. I like to support the developers too, because where we spend our money is what we get. It doesn't matter how much you talk. It's what you spend your money on that drives the market.
100%. And I get very bitter about people's support of Amazon. I fucking hate everything about Amazon. I hate everything that Jeff Bezos represents. I could spend hours telling you about fucking fraud and all these things that would terrify you about that fucking company, and nobody gives a shit. And I'm one person who, like, I recycle, I reduce my meat consumption, I don't eat seafood anymore. I'm stupid enough to think I can affect the carbon footprint. Like, I'm so minuscule. So I get that we all have those like moments of bitterness about something, and it's always fucking money. It's always a money thing. God damn it! Could you imagine being rich? Wouldn't it be fucking cool to be rich?
But I want to hook on that just a little bit, right? Because I think, and this isn't an autonomous reaction. I've been pulling this apart throughout the course of this week. I don't necessarily know that the entire blame for that goes to money and the fat cats and the rich people. It's this weird conflux of where we're seeing an intersection of both capitalism and the thing that I was talking about before, which is people not paying into the market, right? I don't know that one exists without the other. It's this constant cyclical kind of feeding thing where like I think because there was data in the IGN Nielsen survey that indicated that some of this was generational, and I for the time being ascribe my hypothesis to the generation that has this notion of, is going to get a little dangerous, of universal income and 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 um, and paid for education and paid for healthcare. Now, I'm not saying that I disagree with those. I'm a Star Trek guy. I agree with the philosophy of universal income and stripping away the requirement for people to be hyper focused on how much money they make and just making it, dispositioning our society so that people can just do their best work. Right. So those are not, I'm not describing those things because I disagree with them. I'm saying that there's a generation of people that potentially ascribe to those aspirations and behave in that manner, and so they feel like it's okay for them to consume from the gaming market without ever paying anything into it, and feeling that they're entitled to its output. And my only problem with the ideas isn't that the ideas are bad, of universal income and paid for healthcare and paid for education, but my problem with it is that that's not our current reality, and so there's an evolution that needs to take place. And maybe not participating in the economy is the way to drive that evolution. I don't know that I believe that, but all I know is that in the meantime, these two things butt heads, right, in this space that drives these dynamics, right? And maybe where I'm alongside Gurney is where I worry about the backwash of that, right? The overflowing of that is the bow wave, the tidal wave that impacts the gaming industry and starts to tear down parts of it. I don't think we're there yet, but it is the thing that I probably, more than anything of what we've talked about tonight, right, is the thing that I key on as the danger to keep an eye on.
Thank you.
Won't happen. Please.
I appreciate you for saying that.
No, I totally get it. I do. I get it. There's nothing wrong with liking what we like, and there's nothing wrong with fear of the unknown is fucking normal. I mean, nothing wrong with that.
It's like when the automobile came along, right? It's like if people just were okay.
You remember those days, Grandpa?
Yeah, the Model T, right? It's just like if people were just okay with the Model T, and never dreamed of the possibilities down the road. Like, that's the thing. Everything in your living room right now is the product of somebody's dream. Everything. And if they never thought of it, if they never thought beyond the current reality of what was possible, we would never be where we are. Yes, sometimes reality is fucking garbage and bad stuff happens, but we're also not just scraping sticks and stones together to create fire. I mean, when you look around your current environment, a lot of us have indoor plumbing, and we can cook on the stove, and we can go to a grocery store where we can, have access to all kinds of goods and resources and agriculture, all being brought into one place where we can simply buy the food, take it home, and eat to keep ourselves alive. Like, there are benefits to modern society, but it's like, this is where we're at. But in order to get to someplace better, you have to conceive of it first, and you have to dream it, and you have to vocalize it, and you have to change people's minds. With the whole universal healthcare thing, we're not there yet. But there is idealists who need more practicality, who need to understand how to realize that we are living in a reality where that's not happening yet. But then there's also the people who need to realize that dreams can come true. That things that you don't currently experience now, that doesn't mean that you can't manifest that or bring that into reality by being passionate about it, by vocalizing it, by doing the tiny incremental steps. And my job as a gamer, bringing it back to gamer, because we're all gamers, this is a gaming podcast, right, but it would be to slowly educate those around me instead of putting everybody down. Like, how can I make you curious? That's the thing. We need to make each other curious. We're not going to get each other to change our minds through shaming each other. We have to make each other curious.
Amen.
Yeah, I know we said we don't like a lot of the new television shows and whatnot, but like one of the lines from Ted Lasso that came across my windshield and caused me to kind of go look at it and think about it a little more is I think it was Walt Whitman quote or something like that, but it was a "Be curious, not judgmental."
Yes.
Right, and that's the thing. Like we definitely want more people to be more curious about games they haven't played, curious about games in other genres. Whatever vector, I go back to like have a goal, right? Whatever vector you want to take, be curious about it, right? And spend less time being judgmental about weaponizing, somebody's good or bad for playing Demon Souls, somebody's good or bad for playing a particular game, somebody's good or bad for, liking a thing that they like or not liking another thing, right? But, like you already said, like encourage people to constantly seek out the things that they don't already know so that they can become more informed and more knowledgeable and more aware and can make more informed choices. That's my big deal is like, I hate seeing people make selections based on the default, right? Because they don't know any better. I hate people buying iPhones because they don't know anything better, right? And because the Verizon salesman, that's all that they push to them. I hate people buying, PCs with Windows 10 Pro on them because that's what the Best Buy guy said they needed when they don't, right? I hate people I can't stand people paying money for things because they're uninformed. And I don't like people buying games that they're not informed about or just playing the latest thing because that's what they saw the streamer playing when the streamer doesn't flip and know anything about the market. I just want people to be educated and informed and to put that information in a place where it comes across people's windshield, right? Where they can be informed and they can happen to see it. And it comes from a place that's not associated with like advertisements, right? Or, or sponsorships by, big industry.
Preach, my man. Preach.
I think that is the perfect place to wrap it up. Not only because like we're kind of out of time and it's very late for me. I obviously need my beauty sleep, but be curious, not judgmental is the perfect place to wrap up an episode where I think we did a pretty damn good job of like displaying the fact that labels mean different things to different people and they don't define you, right? They don't mean anything. So yeah, what a fucking way to close. Be curious, but not judgmental. Any final words that you gentlemen would like to say before? No?
I think that's it. That's good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good stuff. I knew it would be. So where can folks who aren't already following you online, Gurney, where can they find you on the Twitter?
You can find me at Gurnico, Gurnico.
It's late, guys. It's really late here.
It's late, and I've had some wine too. So
he had a big ass thing on, like a 5-gallon.
It was a big old glass. It was a higher percentage.
It was.
I'm just happy, I'm just enjoying it. I'm caught up in the moment. All right.
And of course, these will be in the pin post if you're watching on YouTube or if you're listening in one of the various apps. This will also be located in anchor.com where you can find this in a pin post there. Logic, where can we find you on Twitter?
Not on Twitter, but just Google for Rounding Off Infinity or the Rounding Off Infinity blog, and you'll find a page that has all my stuff, including where my Twitter feed is.
I'll put his other stuff in the pin post because it's kind of a lot to spell, and I can't actually spell it without looking at it. So that's why he's doing that. So we'll make sure that goes down. So another fantastic banging episode. Best guests in the business. Thanks so much, everybody, for watching. We'll see you guys next week.